Hey everyone, it's Tripl-L, and now let's talk One Piece chapter 920. This week what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go page by page. Unfortunately I can't show it on the video, so I'll just describe what page I am, or tell you what page I'm on, and we can talk about the cool little details and the plot progression that's occurring on each page, depending on if it's important or not. The overall feeling I have for this chapter though, is that this was a great exposition chapter. Really fun, lots of emotional moments, and a few little things that are kind of cool to spot. So we'll just start with the very first page. For the record, I am following the manga stream translation, just so in case you guys want to know. That way we can just go through the same pages together if you want to. Anyway, chapter 920, I Love Oden. Unfortunately, just the narration version because we can't put it on because Shueisha will find me. Okay, so the first page is a cover sequence, or just one of those fan requested covers that Oda does for the Japanese fans and all that. Specifically Zoro and Sanji quarreling with each other in their dreams. I found this one exceedingly funny because of two factors. One, in Sanji's dream, he has broken one of Zoro's swords. I'm not sure how that would work in real life if he actually did that, because Zoro cares so much about his blades that would be a serious... It depends. Would he be offended, or would he take it as himself being weak? Breaking his sword though, that just kind of shows that Sanji doesn't have much of a care for Zoro's treasured weapons. The funny thing on Zoro's side though is that Chopper is the one praising him instead of Nami, as opposed to Sanji. And that makes sense. This plays back to Zoro and Chopper in particular being really close. Chopper's always seen Zoro as a bigger brother, and Zoro's a bit more protective of Chopper. So that's really nice to see that little detail in there. Anyway, moving in through to page 3, we start getting information about Lord Kozuki Oden. Just from what we've learned about Oden in this chapter, he does sound like a very inspiring man, and it's just, he has a cool design, and I hope to see his full design in the future. Given how much people were shadowed out in these chapters, I hope that we'll see what their faces actually look like eventually. I hope that once Oda gets it done, we'll probably see them, and we'll see them in a flashback. I'm really excited because he seems like a really cool guy, and I would love to see his exploits actually in the manga itself. Anyway, we move into page 4. Now, page 4 is the one that establishes what exactly Oden was doing and how he ended up becoming the leader of a particular part of the country. The most important detail here that I thought was really funny is that he fought a man who had the name Ashura somewhere in there. Now, just the pronunciation of the word does make me think of Zoro, but I don't think it's that much of a connection. The one thing that I do think is absolutely interesting about that drawing though is that the way that Ashura looks reminds me of a lot of how the 4 emperors were presented one time. So I can put that picture up. Here's a picture of the 4 emperors, and look at this was at a time that we didn't have the official designs for Kaito and Big Mom, and look at the way those two look. And then if you go back to page 4 for chapter 920 and you look at Ashura, he looks a lot like one of those designs. So I wonder if Oda took one of those preliminary designs that he had and reworked it into Ashura. That'd be a really interesting way, but we'll have to see. But I just thought it was a really interesting commonality there. Anyway, we move on. Going into page 5, and page 5 was a very weird kind of transition because it just kind of cut away from the action for a little bit to show us where Zoro was. And the segue that Oda used here was that he was talking about Kinemon building he used Kinemon, who was talking about Oden building wharfs, and then we cut to Zoro seeing a wharf where he could grab a boat. So that was really interesting. Zoro's little side adventure, where I don't know how he managed to get this lost, but his little side adventure just has me curious as to where he's gonna end up, because this guy is right now a free agent in the land of Wano. Who knows what's about to go down with this guy? The worst case scenario is that he ends up just looking at the Shogun himself. That'd be really interesting. Now, one thing just to end the things with Zoro is that now that someone who's been named Ashura is around, I do wonder if that's, I wonder how that's going to shake out. Is it possible that Ashura is actually the Shogun now, and that's who Zoro's gonna face, and he's gonna be like reminded that he has a technique called Asura? I don't know, but it could be. But it's very interesting. Right now, Zoro's at a place where he could really reach the majority of Wano, or reach a lot of places in Wano, so it'll be interesting to see what actually happens. Anyway, from the Zoro one, we take a quick shot over to Inugarashi, and one thing that I think was really interesting was how Oda kind of shaped a bit of a flashback through the two different characters, and Inugarashi was the one that kind of talked about how they arrived onto the island. But one important detail to note is that Inugarashi is there with his musketeers. We can see Sicilian in the background, we can see the Zero musketeer in the background. So good to know that he's not alone, and good to know that he's not being harassed. Now we just gotta wait for Nekomamushi. Anyway, we move into page 7. It's the first double spread of the, or double page of the chapter. The most important details here, without a doubt, are definitely that Law and his crew, along with Beppo, who is sick, are guarding the outside. They probably heard the story before, so that was a pretty cool little detail. Anyway, this is right around when we find out that, yeah, Odin was made into Odin's soup, pretty much. Odin was killed, and this is where they fully, like, hammer it home. This happened 20 years ago. But it didn't happen 20 years ago for them. It only happened a few months ago for them. So that was pretty cool. I find it interesting that Luffy's surprised that Odin died, given that we knew this. Luffy might not have been listening at the time, and I don't remember if Luffy was asleep when it happened or if he was just not paying attention. But whatever, he knows now. Anyway, page 8 is where things continue to get interesting, because we got to see a big little detail. No, we got to see actually it is a big small detail. It was specifically at the end of the page, in the flashback, we get to see a shot of Kaito and his crew burning down Odin's home. The important thing here is that if you look in the silhouettes of Kaito's crew, there is one person that you can definitely make out as Jack. And then next to him, there is an equally imposing person who we can only assume is one of the 3 calamities. And his design looks it looks reminiscent of Pika's in some ways, but it's a really intimidating design. Now there's a third person next to that major silhouette there, and it's hard to tell whether or not that's just a crew member or actually 3 calamities. Regardless, I think we've just seen the second member of the 3 calamities right there in that silhouette. Another detail in this bit of a page was that when you look at the people who are facing down the castle, there is a 5th person. And the 5th person is right next to Raizo, and he's kind of shorter, stout, and he's wearing one of those big straw hats. So there is still one person unaccounted for, but you'll see at the end of the chapter that this person might be accounted for in Kinemon's own counting of the troops. So we move on to page 9. Page 9, again, all the ones with the flashback scenes are really interesting. Page 9 introduces us to the idea of the Toki, well, not, you know, I want to say I want to say there's a devil fruit doing it, but I don't want to get ahead of myself, so I'm gonna try and keep it under control. She has powers though. Anyway, Lady Toki, and she like delivers a lot of information to us. Specifically that she's moved forward in time, and I wonder, as she's moved forward in time, if she did that specifically with the intention of shifting the world slightly, because she made a prediction, or maybe not even a prediction, because she's the one that created prediction herself. But I do wonder again if she had high observation hockey and she moved into the future to a specific point in time where she saw that she could make a difference in the world. I wonder how far back in time she came from, because if that's possible, this might be a person that came all the way from the Void Century, right? But I don't want to believe, you know, that's too much wishful thinking. Anyway, important details in this is that they didn't reveal their faces, but her face or her nose has she has a very straight nose type feature, and we don't get to see Momo's sister. That's really odd. I wonder if there was some kind of body limit to how many people can be transferred to one particular place in time. I wonder. Anyway, in that in page 9, you can still see that the man with the giant straw hat is still counted in with the samurai. Actually, in that page, you can't even see Kiku. So that was really interesting. We move into page 10, and that's where we have a very critical line in the form of take care of Momonosuke. So she actively made the decision to send over her son. But what happened to her daughter? And also, when you look at the bottom of that page, you see 5 people there where there should have been 6. What happened to the guy with the giant straw hat? What happened to his sister? Was there a body limit? Could only 5 people go through? Because then someone had to die with them there, right? That's really odd. I wonder what actually happened. Now, one thing to just a really cool little detail there is that Kanjuro was using his little dumb birds to get a lay of the land. If you look at that final panel on page 10, we move into page 11. And page 11 doesn't have any particularly amazing details except more confirmation that the guy with giant straw hat potentially isn't there. Like if you look at the first panel of that page, you can see the silhouettes, or you can see little markings for Kanjuro, Kinemon, Kiku, and behind one of the graves you'll be able to see Raizo. So we still have no idea where the guy with the big hat is. Beyond that, we go into page 11, and page 11 is just more exposition. There's no real big detail here that I think is worthwhile other than just the people talking about how so much has changed in the 20 years they were gone. And that leads us into the whole talk with the people who still support the Kozukis. So now we know how kind of Kinemon was able to find people who would ally with him when he just came out from the past. And that being specifically, thank God for Toki giving that prophecy, because that prophecy gave people a time frame to start looking in. So I think that was a genius move on her part. I'm surprised that Kaito or Orochi didn't just have someone stationed at that particular area as well. I think that would have been a very reasonable thing to do, but I guess it would be an issue of waiting for every day in 20 years later, waiting for things to happen. So that's all right. Anyway, by page 14, we are talking about how all the shenanigans happen. We see Raizo getting separated at Zou. And now, knowing that 20 years had passed, imagine Inuarashi and Nekomamushi's surprise when they see Raizo. Of course, they were going to go to those lengths to save him. That was amazing. So, then we have the Doflamingo issues. And now I'm really wondering, where exactly did Momo get this kind of trauma in regards to Doflamingo? Where did he get it from? I guess he was still a traumatized boy, so anything Doflamingo could do would probably freak him out. But remember, one thing with Momo was that he freaked out when he was in a dragon form, right? And he saw Doflamingo's face in it. So I wonder how much of an interaction him and Momonosuke had. Anyway, by page 15, we have fully caught up now, and we are now at a point where everyone thinks that Kinemon is a ghost, and they're just all getting ready for shit. Anyway, page 16 has the epic shot of the chapter, and that is just the forces that are coming in here. We have Luffy's pirates, we have Law's pirates, and the Zou people, and then we have the people of Wano. Now, if you look at the people of Wano, if you look to the left of Raizo, there is a guy with that distinctive hat. And this is something that Oda also did in the chapter where you had Raizo next to this person in the lineups. So that's still maintained here. I think that person with the distinctive hat is the guy that was in the earlier parts of the chapters. And guys, again, I apologize that I can't show you images, just, if you want to go along with it. But anyway, point of the story is this man is maintained, and he is not in the lineup with Kinemon when he starts telling this story. So this guy is somewhere in the world or dead, but Kinemon is still counting him. So someone with a giant hat is going to show up at some point. Anyway, by page 17, we end off the chapter and we know where the Straw Hat Crew's going. They're going to go to Onigashima, which has some connections to a certain Japanese folktale. But the biggest detail of this chapter is that not only are they invading it, but we have to wait a week till we get the next chapter in this saga. So that was unfortunate. Overall, chapter 920, man, it brought in a lot of cool little explanations. It had some interesting details thrown in there, and overall I'm really excited for next week, or not next week, for the next week. I want to see what happens. It just sucks we have a break, but you know what, Oda, take your time. Anyway, guys, let me know what you thought of the chapter down below. This was more of just telling you guys these little cool little details that we saw in the chapter. And let me know if you like this format. Unfortunately, because of Shonen Jump's recent strikes, I can't do anything. But yeah, till next time, I hope you have an absolutely great day.